Welcome to the Deconstructionist Deep Dive, the podcast that doesn't just accept the story.
We break it.
We examine the pieces.
And expose the machinery inside.
Let's dive in.
Let's dive in.
What if everything we're told about achieving freedom through entrepreneurial sacrifice and ruthless focus isn't just unattainable for most,
But deliberately designed to keep the majority striving while only a tiny elite ever escapes?
Okay, so today we are taking a scalpel to a very potent and popular philosophy of success.
We've spent weeks digging through hours of interviews, keynote speeches, and writings, all centered on the worldview of Kevin O'Leary.
Mr. Wonderful.
The shark. The man on television who has built an entire brand on telling aspiring entrepreneurs that their ideas, their dreams are basically worthless.
But let's be clear, this isn't really about a TV personality, that's just the avatar.
Exactly. We're here to deconstruct the ideology he represents. It's a specific, highly marketed algorithm for capitalist success that promises, to hand you the keys to the kingdom.
And the kingdom, the grand prize at the end of it all, has a name.
Freedom.
That's the word. It's the core of the entire promise.
It is. But when you actually strip away the branding, when you look at the raw source code of this philosophy, it starts to look a lot less like freedom.
And a lot more like what?
A high-security prison. One where you are somehow both the inmate and the warden, enforcing your own sentence.
That's a pretty intense way to start this deep dive.
Well, it's an intense philosophy. I mean, a source material lays out this incredibly rigid set of rules. It's a total system. There are rules for your money, your time, your focus.
Even for your marriage.
Especially for your marriage. And the grand bargain is this. You submit to the algorithm, you obey every single rule without deviation, and in return, you get freedom.
So that feels like the perfect place to start. Let's define the terms. Let's deconstruct that one word, freedom. Because in this world, it doesn't mean what most people think it means.
No, it's not about finding yourself or, traveling the world with a backpack.
Or painting or writing a novel.
None of that. In the O'Leary algorithm, freedom has a cold, hard numerical definition.
Which is?
Complete autonomy from obligatory work. That's it. That's the finish line.
It's a purely financial definition.
It's the mathematical point where the cash flow from your assets, your stocks, your businesses exceeds your cost of living. The point where you never again have to answer a boss or a client or an alarm clock if you don't want to.
And to be fair, that's a really compelling goal. I don't think there's anyone listening who hasn't felt the crushing weight of obligatory work.
Of course. The idea of waking up on a Tuesday and knowing your survival is already taken care of, that your day belongs entirely to you, that's the dream.
That's the dream. And that's the hook that gets you to buy into the whole system.
Right. But the deconstruction, the part we really need to break wide open today, is the cost of admission to that dream. Because to achieve that state of freedom 40 years from now,
you have to enslave yourself today.
You have to submit to a discipline so severe, so all-consuming, that it borders on, self-punishment. The core idea is that you have to operate like a machine for the first half of your adult life to maybe buy back your humanity for the second half.
It's the ultimate deferred gratification plan. Live like no one else now, so you can live like no one else later. But there's a catch.
A huge one.
And this is what really jumped out at me from the sources. This path, this algorithm, it's not presented as a choice anyone can make.
Not at all. He isn't saying anyone who works hard can do this. He's saying the exact opposite.
He's saying most people are biologically incapable of it. We're talking about the genetic lottery.
Let's get right into the 33%. This is, and I don't think this is an exaggeration, the bedrock of the entire worldview. And honestly, it's where things start to get pretty bleak.
So what's the claim?
The claim, stated explicitly and repeatedly, is that entrepreneurship, which is framed as the only legitimate path to this kind of freedom, is genetic. It's a trait, like blue eyes or being tall.
He puts a number on it.
He says only about 33% of the population has the DNA for it.
Okay, let's just pause and sit with that for a second. 33%.
1/3.
That means, according to this model, that 2/3 of the human race, 67% of people you see on the street, maybe 2/3 of the people listening right now,
are out of the running before the race even starts. They simply do not have the required biological hardware.
They're genetically capped.
And the language he uses to describe that 67%, it's not gentle. It's not, oh, they have other strengths. It's brutal.
He calls them floor scrapers.
Floor scrapers, or his other favorite, consultants in mediocrity.
Wow. Floor scrapers.
Yeah.
You can feel the contempt in that phrase. It's designed to make you flinch.
It's designed to create a hierarchy, a caste system. There are the people who own and there are the people who scrape the floors for the owners.
But let me push back for a moment. Is he just being cruel, or is there a sliver of, harsh reality in there? Statistically, most new businesses do fail.
They do.
And most people do work for someone else. They are employees. So is calling someone a floor scraper an insult? Or is it just a very blunt, very cold description of the economic landscape?
I think it's both. And you're right to point that out. The problem isn't the statistic. The problem is the attribution, the why.
The DNA part.
The DNA part. By attributing success or failure to your genetic code, you completely obliterate the concept of a meritocracy, which is, ironically, the very thing his entire brand is supposedly built on.
The pull yourself up by your bootstraps narrative.
Exactly. How can you pull yourself up by your bootstraps if your genes have nailed your boots to the floor? If it's all DNA, then the system isn't fair. It's not about hard work. It's just biological determinism, pure and simple, just masked as tough love business advice.
So if that's the case, why is this narrative so powerful? Why do people lean in and listen to a guy who's basically telling them, hey, the odds are 2 to 1 that you're a genetic failure?
Because of a very clever, very powerful psychological trick.
The in-group fantasy.
It's classic cult recruitment 101. When you hear that statistic, 33% versus 67%, your brain doesn't identify with the majority.
No, of course not. Your ego kicks in.
Your ego immediately says, well, obviously I'm in the 33%. I'm different. I'm special. I'm the one listening to this deep dive trying to improve.
So it actually makes you feel chosen. It frames the struggle and the sacrifice not as exploitation or a bad deal, but as proof of your superior DNA.
It reframes suffering as validation. And look at the perfect, inescapable trap it creates. The source material admits, almost in a throwaway line, that luck or karma is a massive, undeniable factor in success.
Right, being in the right place at the right time.
But he never dwells on that. He pushes the genetic story. So what happens? If you work 100 hours a week for 10 years and you succeed, you get to say, see, I had the DNA.
And if you work 100 hours a week and you fail?
Well, you must have been a floor scraper all along. You were genetically destined to fail. The system is never wrong. It provides a pre-packaged explanation for every outcome, and it always protects the guru's premise.
It's a self-sealing logic. A caste system with a built-in justification. There are the owners and there are the operated.
And if you want to prove to yourself and the world that you are one of the owners, you have to adopt the algorithm. And this brings us to the second pillar of this entire philosophy.
The operating system itself.
The signal versus noise framework.
This has a lineage, right? This isn't an O'Leary invention.
No, not at all. It's derived directly from the playbook of Steve Jobs. And it's been famously adopted and intensified by people like Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos.
So it's the operating system of the modern tech oligarch.
That's a perfect way to put it.
Okay, so let's break it down. Let's get really specific for everyone listening. What is signal and what exactly is noise?
The rule is brutally simple. A successful operator and owner maintains 80 to 100% of their conscious focus on just 3 to 5 mission-critical tasks.
And there's a time frame on that, too.
A very short one. The focus is only on the next 18 hours. That's your entire universe. What are the 3 things that, if completed in the next 18 hours, will materially increase the equity value of my business? That signal.
And noise.
Is everything else.
Define everything, because I think people hear noise and they think, scrolling on social media.
And that is noise, for sure. But in this worldview, the definition is so much more extreme. Noise is your car getting a flat tire. Noise is your friend calling to vent about their bad day. Noise is your mother sending you an email.
So anything that doesn't directly serve the business.
Anything that does not directly advance one of those 3 mission-critical tasks that generate revenue or equity, it is a ruthless classification system for reality itself.
Okay, walk me through a hypothetical. It's Monday morning. I wake up, I go to my kitchen, and I see the sink is full of dishes from last night. I spent 15 minutes washing them. Signal or noise?
Noise. Complete and utter noise. You just failed the algorithm because you performed a maintenance task?
Yeah.
That's a low-value activity that could have been ignored or outsourced. Those 15 minutes did not build your company. You traded 15 minutes of potential freedom for a clean sink.
Okay. Later in the day, a colleague stops by my desk. They want to chat for 5 minutes about the game last night.
Noise. Absolute, undeniable noise. In that moment, you are trading your future autonomy for a fleeting moment of social connection. It's a bad trade.
This sounds, I don't know, fundamentally anti-human. It sounds sociopathic.
It's not about being human, it's about being hyper-efficient. And we have the case studies to prove it. The source material holds up Steve Jobs as an example. He operated at about an 80-20 split.
80% signal, 20% noise.
Right. He allowed for some chaos, some humanity, art, music, calligraphy, long walks. But the current gold standard being promoted, the one that references someone like Elon Musk, is different.
That's the 1000 model.
100% signal, 0% noise. That is the new benchmark for dedication.
Let's really think about what that means, though. 100% signal. If you are actually living that, you are not a person anymore. You're a biological server executing a program.
That is precisely what the Musk standard implies. The ideal human is actually a robot. If you are at 100% signal, you have no hobbies, you have no spontaneous thoughts, you have no relationships that are not in some way transactional and moving the business forward.
But wait, the guy himself, O'Leary, he has a family, he plays the guitar. How does he reconcile that?
Because he classifies them. They are what he calls acceptable noise. But listen to the conditionality.
It's only acceptable if.
If it does not derail the mission-critical tasks. These activities are tolerated liabilities, not sources of joy. He schedules them. He time boxes them. I will now engage in 15 minutes of guitar playing to reset my dopamine levels, which will allow me to return to signal with greater focus.
So the guitar isn't for the love of music. The guitar becomes a tool to serve the business.
Everything becomes a tool to serve the business. Human connection is a liability to be managed. You can almost hear the internal monologue. I will now schedule 45 minutes of direct interaction with my spouse. This should be sufficient to maintain the marital contract and avoid a divorce, because a divorce would cost me 50% of my equity, which would be a catastrophic violation of the signal.
You're being cynical, but that is actually the underlying logic, isn't it?
It is the 100% logical conclusion of the algorithm. It is an efficiency protocol applied directly to the human soul.
And this leads us right into the next section. Because if you're living this 1000L life, what happens to concepts like, work-life balance?
They get called what they are in this worldview. Complete bullshit.
Like a direct quote.
A direct quote. He is absolutely clear on this. For a serious entrepreneur, especially in the first 5 to 10 years, the very idea of work-life balance is a destructive fantasy.
It's a lie that floor scrapers tell themselves to feel better about their mediocrity.
That's the implication. He demands near total sacrifice. The argument, and it has a certain brutal logic, is that wealth acceleration is a force of nature like gravity. It requires undivided commitment. You cannot serve two masters. You cannot serve your startup and your family equally.
And the business must win.
The business must always win. But this is where the deconstruction gets really chilling for me. It's the specific detail about what this means for the family.
The partner's role.
The source material is explicit that the partner of the entrepreneur must effectively become a single parent.
It's not just that the entrepreneur is busy. It's that their absence is a requirement of the model.
Yes. The system depends on it. The model can only function because it assumes the spouse will absorb 100% of the noise of domestic life.
So the entrepreneur's freedom is directly subsidized by the servitude of their partner.
That's the perfect word for it. Subsidized. It's a transfer of burden. The entrepreneur gets to be the great man, the visionary, the pure signal, only because someone else, and let's be honest about the demographics being addressed here, it's almost always a wife, is dealing with the diapers, the school runs, the parent-teacher conferences, the emotional labor of raising children, all of it.
So it's not a model of individual success. It's a parasitic model.
Parasitic is a strong word, but biologically it fits.
Explain that.
A parasite requires a host organism to survive. In this model, the entrepreneur is the parasite, and the host organism is the family unit, specifically the spouse. The entrepreneur draws all the resources, time, energy, focus, to feed their own growth.
And if the host, the spouse, were to demand equal partnership, if they said, I need you to do 50% of the parenting,
the model collapses. The signal would drop from 90% to maybe 50%, and according to the theory, the business would fail. So this isn't just a story about personal grit, it's a story about leveraging an unpaid, unsupported labor structure at home.
It's an incredible bargain to propose to someone. Darling, for the next decade, I am going to be emotionally absent, physically exhausted, and completely ruthless. You will raise our children alone. If my long shot bet pays off, we'll be free. If it doesn't...
Well, sorry about your 30s. And remember the 67% stat. The odds are overwhelmingly that it won't pay off. So you sacrifice the best decade of your family's life, you breed in your partner to the breaking point, you miss your kids' entire childhoods, and you still, most likely, end up as a floor scraper.
That is a terrifying risk-reward calculation.
It's staggering. But, okay, let's play the game. Let's say you're the 33%. You're the exception. You win. Now you have the money. What do you do with it?
This is where we get into the financial straitjacket.
Yeah.
And honestly, it's not what I expected from a guy who lives a life of, visible luxury.
Because it all comes back to his mother.
The maternal influence.
Yeah.
The philosophy is almost entirely derived from the rules taught to him by his mother, Georgette. And rule number 1 is the big one.
Principal preservation.
Never spend the principal.
Never. You live only off the dividends, the interest, the cash flow.
Let's use an analogy here to make this really clear, because principal and dividends can feel a bit abstract.
Okay.
Imagine your total wealth is a magical golden goose.
The goose is the principal, your net worth.
Right. Now, most people, if they want to buy a nice car or go on a fancy vacation, they'll chop off a wing of the goose and eat it. They spend the principal.
Or they sell the whole goose.
Exactly.
Yeah.
This philosophy says the goose is sacred. You do not touch the goose. You don't even pluck a feather. You live entirely off the golden eggs it lays each year.
The dividends.
The dividends. And if the goose only lays enough eggs for you to afford toast for dinner,
Then you eat toast.
even if there's a $10 million goose sitting right there in your living room.
You do not cook the goose. Period. This creates a really specific, almost anxious psychological relationship with your own money.
It's the don't touch the art mentality. The hoard itself becomes the goal. The preservation of the pile is more important than the utility of the money.
It absolutely prioritizes the hoard over the life, which leads directly to rule number 2, which is how you protect the goose.
The diversification shield.
Maximum 5% in any single stock. Maximum 20% in any single sector of the economy.
Which, to be fair, is just standard Putin wealth management advice. It's risk containment.
It is. If you have $100, you don't put more than $5 into any one company's stock. That way, if that company goes bankrupt, you've only lost $5. It's sensible.
But it gets less sensible when you combine it with the lifestyle rules, the 15% rule.
Ah, yes. The claim is that you must invest 15% of your gross income, starting at age 25, into low-cost S&P 500 ETFs.
And the promised outcome.
He claims this simple, non-negotiable rule will result in a portfolio of over $1.5 million by the time you're 65.
And the math on that checks out, right?
The math is solid. Assuming average market returns over 40 years, if you start early and stay consistent, you will become a millionaire. The compound interest is undeniable, but then we get to the part of the philosophy that starts to, really suffocate you.
The dead money critique.
Yes.
The source material gives these incredibly specific, mundane examples. A $28 lunch.
A shirt you buy but never wear. A fancy coffee. In O'Leary's framework, these are not just simple purchases. They are profound financial failures. They are opportunity costs.
It weaponizes compound interest against your daily life. It turns every sandwich into a mathematical sin.
Let's just do the math because it's horrifying. You buy a $28 lunch today. O'Leary doesn't see a sandwich. He sees the future value of that money.
What it could have been.
That $28, if it were invested in the S&P 500, earning an average of, say, 8% for 40 years, that sandwich didn't cost you $28. It cost you nearly $600 of your future freedom.
So every time you buy a coffee, you're not spending $5. You're drinking $100 from your retirement fund.
And that is the mindset it's designed to induce. It creates a paralyzing anxiety around any form of basic consumption. You can't enjoy anything because everything has an invisible price tag of its future value.
It creates a permanent mindset of scarcity, even as your wealth is technically growing.
You're living in a state of perpetual self-deprivation for a future version of yourself that you might never become. You are starving the 25-year-old to gorge the 65-year-old.
Then just hoping that 65-year-old is, still alive and healthy enough to enjoy the feast.
It's a massive wager on your own longevity. But this brings us back to relationships. If you're living this way, if you're obsessing over a $5 coffee, working 18 hours a day, and treating your hobbies like productivity tools, who on earth is going to sign up for that?
Ah, yes. Section 5. Relationships as business transactions. This is where the algorithm sheds any pretense of warmth.
It's so unromantic, it's almost comical. He describes marriage, and this is another direct quote, as the largest single financial decision of your life.
Which, again, he's not factually wrong.
No, statistically, he's dead on. Divorce is the #1 destroyer of multi-generational wealth. And the source notes that the primary driver of divorce isn't infidelity, it's financial stress.
Another factual statistic. Fights about money are what break up most marriages.
But the solution the algorithm proposes is, well, it's chilling. He says you must marry a meanie.
A meanie. That is the actual term he uses in the source material.
That is the technical term from the O'Leary lexicon. You must find and secure a partner who is as financially disciplined, or even more so, than you are.
So a meanie is someone whose job is to say no.
No, we're not going on that vacation. No, we can't afford that bottle of wine. No, we are not upgrading the car. You are explicitly told to marry a chief financial officer for your life.
I'm just picturing that first date.
It's a job interview. So you seem nice. I like your laugh. But before we order the main course, can I see your credit score and maybe your last 3 tax returns?
And what are your thoughts on principal preservation? Because if you're the type of person who might touch the goose, we should probably just get the check now.
On one level, it's brutally logical. It's preempting the #1 cause of divorce. But on a human level, it's framing your life partner as a primary risk factor to be mitigated.
You're not choosing a soulmate. You're underwriting a cosigner.
It's sociopathic. It suggests that if you fall in love with someone wonderful who maybe isn't a meanie, someone who thinks a $28 lunch is just a nice way to spend a Tuesday, you should terminate that relationship as a bad investment.
Because they represent noise.
They are a direct threat to the principle. And if you dare to marry a spender, you are, by definition, signing yourself up for a lifetime of floor scraping.
It always comes back to that caste system. The meanies and the 33%ers find each other, they merge their assets, and they compound their wealth together.
It's basically eugenics for your bank account.
But you know, for all this talk about ruthless alpha male behavior, there's a fascinating paradox in the source material when it comes to gender.
This is the great irony of the entire deep dive.
Who does Mr. Wonderful, the ultimate shark, say generates the best investment returns in his portfolio?
What women?
Women-led companies.
He says, unequivocally, that his highest returning investments, the ones that have made him the most money, are disproportionately companies that are founded or led by women.
And his reasoning for this completely blows up the alpha stereotype that his own persona is built on.
Completely. The reason he claims is that women are more likely to set realistic growth targets. They'll pitch a business plan that aims for, say, 15 or 16% growth, a target they know they can hit.
Whereas men
come in promising to conquer the universe. They pitch 30, 40, 50% growth because their ego is tied up in the vision. They're selling the fantasy.
The men are performing. They're on the stage, beating their chests, promising disruption.
And the women are executing a plan. The source specifically praises their superior listening skills and, crucially, their execution discipline. They hit their targets.
So the ultimate shark, when it's his own money on the line, admits that the loud, brash alpha male ego is actually a bad indicator for returns.
It exposes the whole performance. He prefers the realistic operator over the visionary dreamer when it comes to protecting his principle. He performs the alpha on TV, but he invests in the realist in his office.
That is a fundamental contradiction.
It's huge. And speaking of contradictions with popular narratives, we have to touch on his view on real estate.
Because this one goes against the core of the traditional American dream.
The white picket fence is a financial trap. That's the thesis.
And he says young, ambitious people should absolutely rent, not buy.
Correct. And again, it's pure math versus emotion. The logic is all about opportunity cost. When you buy a house, you take a huge chunk of capital, your down payment, and you sink it into a single, highly illiquid asset.
He calls it dead equity.
And on top of that, you have mortgage interest, property taxes, insurance, and the big one, maintenance. Fixing the roof, replacing the water heater. He sees that as pure, unrecoverable loss.
It is, financially. It doesn't increase the value, it just stops the value from plummeting.
Precisely. So his argument is during your peak compounding years, your 20s and 30s, you should take that $100,000 you would have used for a down payment, put it in the S&P 500 where it's liquid and growing at 8%, and just rent a place to live.
Keep your capital working for you, not sitting in the walls of a house.
Exactly. A house is a utility, a place to live. It is not an investment in his eyes.
But that goes against this deep, profound, emotional need for security, for ownership. The idea that this is mine, that no one can kick me out. He's asking you to trade the feeling of home for the reality of liquidity.
And that's a perfect summary of the entire philosophy, isn't it? Everything is a trade of feeling for efficiency.
Say more about that. That's a powerful idea.
Think about the pattern. You trade the feeling of enjoying a nice lunch for a higher number in a spreadsheet. You trade the feeling of a spontaneous evening with friends for more signal time. You trade the feeling of romance for a financially prudent meanie. You trade the feeling of a home for a more efficient portfolio.
It's the total commodification of your own emotional life. You are liquidating your present-day feelings to buy shares in future security.
Which brings us to the final section, the ultimate question. What is the payout? You do all of this, you live like a monk, you rent, you ignore your family, you marry a compliance officer, you grind for 40 years. What is at the end of that road?
Section 7. The philosophy of happiness. And this is the ultimate bait and switch. Because after all that, O'Leary states that happiness is not a destination.
It's an emergent property.
A byproduct.
Yeah,
it's something that just sort of happens.
Yeah.
If you are successfully achieving your goals, it's the exhaust fumes from the engine of success, not the fuel.
He's a personal anecdote about this, right?
He claims to be happier now in his 70s than he has ever been in his life. And the reason he gives is that he has finally earned the ability to eliminate unwanted obligations. He can say no to anyone and anything.
So he spent 50 years living a life of brutal obligation to the algorithm so that for his last 20 years, he could finally be free from obligation.
He bought his freedom. He
Yep.
paid for it, hour by hour, with his one and only life.
So let's zoom all the way out. Let's look at this systemic blind spot. This algorithm, it worked for him. He's the survivor telling the story. He is the survivor who mistakenly believes he is the rule, not the exception. And that is the danger of this whole freedom trap. It is, by its very nature, unapologetically hierarchical. It creates a world of owners and floor scrapers.
And it completely ignores the fact that the owners need the floor scrapers to exist.
If everyone was a shark, who would work in the factories? Who would buy the products? Who would rent the apartments that the sharks own? The model is fundamentally not universal. It can't be.
If every single person adopted the O'Leary method tomorrow, if everyone stopped spending on noise, which is what fuels the entire consumer economy, if everyone saved every penny and tried to become a 100% signal entrepreneur, the system would instantly collapse.
It also pretends a true meritocracy exists. It completely ignores the structural barriers, where you were born, the color of your skin, who your parents were. O'Leary himself had a mother who taught him sophisticated investment strategies as a child. That is an insane inherited advantage.
Most people are just learning how to not get evicted, not how to preserve principle.
Exactly.
So when we put it all together, what is this thing? Is this philosophy evil? Is O'Leary a villain?
No, I don't think he's a villain. That's too simple. I think he's a pragmatist who is giving you an honest, unvarnished instruction manual for a deeply broken game.
Explain what you mean by that.
The hard truth is, a lot of what he says is correct within the context of the game.
Yeah.
If your one and only goal in life is to accumulate a $10 million net worth by age 50, this is probably the most efficient way to do it.
The math works. The discipline works.
It does. The question isn't, is the advice wrong? The question is the goal itself worth the price of admission?
So what we're looking at is a survival guide for a dystopia.
That is the perfect description. It's not a blueprint for a good society. It's a blueprint for how to win in a ruthless, atomized, winner-take-all society. It looks at the world and says, this place is cold, competitive, and unfair. Here's the algorithm you need to run to kill the other players and hoard the resources.
And the cost of running that algorithm
is your own humanity for at least the first 2/3 of your life. You have to turn yourself into a capital accumulation machine. You treat your relationships like contracts. You treat your time as an enemy to be conquered.
And if you get lucky, because he admits luck is a factor,
And if you really are in that top 33%,
then you might get to be free when you're too old to really enjoy it.
right, and what if you're not? What if you're in the 67%?
Then you followed all the rules to a game you are genetically programmed to lose. You sacrificed the only life you'll ever have for a prize that was never on the table for you.
You burned out. You alienated your family, you missed your children's lives, and you ended up a floor scraper anyway. Only now you're a tired, lonely floor scraper with no happy memories to look back on.
That's the real dark side. It works for the one who wins.
Yeah.
But for the many who try and fail, it is a recipe for mass burnout and a society completely disconnected from itself.
It defines freedom so narrowly as freedom from work that it completely misses the point of being free to actually live your life along the way.
And that's our deep dive for this week.
Remember, the most dangerous illusion is the one you don't know you're in.
But now you know. So here's our question for you. Knowing what you know now about the hidden costs and assumptions baked into this version of the success narrative, What does true freedom of time and choice actually look like for you in your daily life? Not in theory, but in concrete practice. And what's one small shift you could make this week to move closer to it?
Let us know in the comments. Question the narrative, deconstruct the dogma, see the system.
We'll see you next time. Stay skeptical. Thank you for joining us.